Hello, I'm Toycat, and it has now been 3 years since the Exploration update released for Minecraft Java Edition. This is one of the most exciting sounding updates for the game because it brought Minecraft's biggest ever structure to the game, the Wooden Mansion, alongside a whole host of other features such as llamas, shulker boxes, observers, and even the Totem of Undying. And the interesting thing about this update is how it kind of sits in the history books of Minecraft as one of the less impressive ones. It stands as a perfect contrast to what we've been seeing over the last couple of years with the updated Quasic and indeed the Village and Pillage update as a perfect example of what not to do when compared to those updates. So what exactly went wrong with the Exploration update? Why is it that the Wooden Mansion is one of the less significant features in the game today? And what can we learn from this? And indeed, what can Minecraft learn from this for the next major update and indeed beyond? So to lay out all of my cards on the table here, when 1.11 was first coming out, when the Exploration update was first announced, I was so incredibly hyped for this. Even as it released, I thought, yeah, this is going to change Minecraft in so many huge ways. I explored the Wooden Mansions in so many different ways. I made so many seed videos. I was so excited for these features in so many different areas, and you can tell that if you check my channel back 3 years ago. But the question I'm asking today is not about the hype power that it had at the time, because let's be honest, it's easy to build hype for anything on the internet, but the things that really make a big difference are the things that stick with the game a lot later, which is notably not true for this update, and let me give you a quick show around to explain why. So this update includes significantly fewer features than the average Minecraft update, but the kind of emphasis is, on fewer features but better features, on having features which would last much longer, and you can see that when you think of a feature like the shulker box, a feature which really can add so much to a survival world, and it definitely adds a lot to my survival world, but how many people do you see using these on a mass basis? How many people even really know the point of shulker boxes, just don't think they're another chest? They're a great way to store lots of items in one slot because it's a portable chest, but how many people know or care about that? When we move on to things like the Totem of Undying, it's a really great item, right? That comes exclusively from, oh yeah, the Wooden Mansion, and now also it comes from the Pillager raids, but it's a kind of rare item that can allow you to escape death. A really fun concept in principle, but because it has to be held the whole time, and because of, like holding issues and the fact that it takes up one of your slots, it often kind of isn't. Again, it's the sort of thing where you don't see many people using it. Same thing with the llamas. Llamas are theoretically a pretty useful mob. You can put chests on them and then you can lead them around, and if you have lots of llamas, they will make a caravan. It's cute, it's great, but let's be real here. How many times have you used llamas for real things and not just like, haha, you punch them and then they spit at you and you can use that to do some weird stuff? How often do you do that? Be real with me here, because I bet it's not very often. So when you take the big list of actual changes in this update, you take the mobs, you take the items, you take the brand new blocks, the real, kind of standout features become the observer block, become the shulker box, and become the Totem of Undying to some extent. Obviously, the Totem of Undying doesn't actually protect you from the biggest boss in the game, the Ender Dragon. If you try and fight it with a Totem of Undying, you just die instantly. I'll show you a clip of that on screen right now because it really frustrates me that, I've lost everything in my world, because I assume Totem of Undying, the thing that's meant to bring you back to life, give you a second chance. Oh yeah, it doesn't work on the Ender Dragon because our mechanics don't interact with our own mechanics, but leaving that rant aside, you end up with two major blocks and items which people can use in their Minecraft worlds, but are pretty advanced down their own little trees, and then you end up with the Wooden Mansion being the kind of third one, right? But the Wooden Mansion makes up for all of the rest of the shortcomings in this update, right? Because it added the biggest naturally generated structure Minecraft has ever seen, not by a little, but by a lot. This thing is seriously close to 100 by 100, sometimes it can exceed that in one dimension. It's 3 floors tall, and it's filled with randomly generated rooms, some of which are surprisingly fun, some of which are surprisingly quirky, and some of which come with some seriously good loot for you to take from the end of it. So yeah, if there's this really great structure, if there's this really rare thing with lots of cool permutations, surely it makes up for the rest of the update. I mean, there's a good chance if you've never picked a specific seed, or you've never, gotten yourself a Woodland Explorer map, this might be your first Woodland Mansion you're seeing, and you would definitely agree, yeah, this is a seriously impressive thing. There's just so much going on with it, and therefore you might say, what could be the problem with it? How does this not save the update by itself? How is this not known as the update that, again, added exploration back to the game? Because you needed to find these guys, and when you found them, you needed to explore them. And the sad answer to that one is just when it comes to what exactly you find on the inside. These things are a delight to explore for the first time. If you have no idea what's going on, like seeing the redstone lever puzzles and stuff like this, it will remind you a little bit of a jungle temple mixed with some other stuff. It seems like a really fun, exciting place, but the truth is, once you actually know what you're looking for, once you know what can be found inside here, you don't find very much. much. Some of the rarest loot you will find is things like broken anvils, which aren't required on Bedrock, by the way, because of the anvils not breaking, but there are things like broken anvils, there are things like banners, there are sometimes chests which can contain diamond holes and golden apples, etc., but most of what you come here for is the evokers. Most of what you come here for is the ability to kill yourself a big boss enemy, and in exchange, get yourself a Totem Undying. That's right, a lot of the reason for this entire structure, this giant thing that could be, filled with possibilities, filled with different things to do, comes down to a desire to get the Totem of Undying, which has its own flaws, faults, and which now, as of 1.14, literally can be found outside of this structure anyway. Why find a structure which might be 50,000 blocks away from your base? Why go through that much effort when what you can do instead is you can just start a pillager raid and you can do something which is genuinely useful close to home instead? The problem with this, in my opinion, the problem with this structure, and indeed this update, is they tried to add exploration to Minecraft, they tried to add a late game to Minecraft, something which I think is a great idea and which definitely should be done in other ways, but the problem with the way that they attempted it was they kind of just threw stuff at a wall to see what would stick. The entire reason the Woolen Mansion is the way it is, like the reason there was never a structure this big and why there can be one with randomly generated rooms, which works, by the way, and no, look, we found a name tag. The reason this whole thing works is because they also added the structure block in this update, and they just decided like, oh yeah, why don't we try and make a big structure that takes advantage of it? It seems as though this entire thing, despite having some fun rooms, like I'm sure we'll find a giant chicken or something in a few seconds. I mean, it's no giant chicken, but maybe it's bit of advice on how to make a little room. Or maybe it's the opposite of advice. I feel like most people actually would hate this compared to their builds. But you get the point that like, these structures are filled with rare and interesting things. I'll show you the chicken room on screen, just in case you think I'm making that one up, by the way. But yeah, these structures are filled with rare and sometimes interesting, sometimes fascinating things. Look, oh, it's a map table. I love this as like a room design. It's a very interesting place, but it's not one that really stuck with the players. It doesn't become interesting to explore because most of the time in survival, you're not playing for the purpose of exploring and seeing the world, you're trying to get purpose out of it. In other words, the whole point of Minecraft is to set your own goals, and although it's nice to observe the world sometimes it's nice to get inspiration and ideas from these sorts of things, it doesn't mean that one of the in-game things itself should be giving you that. Minecraft, the game itself, is not meant to inspire you, it's meant to challenge you, it's meant to give you the tools you need to set your own challenges, to set your own goals, and the Woolen Mansion doesn't really do that. It has the Totem of Undying, it has a way to find diamond holes, a way to find golden apples, but because of the most recent update, I mean, it used to be the best way to get totems because it was the only way, now it's not the best way to get anything. It's a really rare structure you can go out of your way to get, but there's no real need or reason to be here, and that is my kind of big point on this one. To add exploration to Minecraft, a game where you set your own challenges, you need to give people a reason to set their own challenge to be explore. And as fun as finding a room full of light blue wool might be, and some dark blue wool, is this like a melted zombie or something? As fun as finding one of these rooms might be, as fun as the idea that there are chests in any one of these rooms which can contain pretty rare loot, the truth is this just comes out way too late in the game for some people to actually be worthwhile. It comes way too far away from the spawn for some people, and yeah, that's my biggest problem. Like, having super rare structures makes sense as a thing. Like, it'd be nice if there was more crazy rare structures that a lot of people might not have seen before something like this. But to level with you, if this is going to be the biggest part of an update, it can't be a super rare thing that most players won't experience, or that most players have to go through some questionable methods to experience, because then it means that the biggest part of your update is something most players can't enjoy in your update. When all of the features tie together and have the same shared purpose that is a very rare and niche purpose, it makes the update very rare and niche and makes it something that is easily forgotten. It sounded like it was going to be an amazing update. It sounded like making llama caravans and making all sorts of different things with shulker boxes and even observer blocks. These are all things that sound great, but the truth is it was a tiny proportion of the community that got to enjoy those. This update might have succeeded in making a very small group of players very happy. I'd say I'm one of them. The shulker boxes are one of my favorite features to this day in Minecraft. If you're a redstone player, the observer block is a block you almost can't imagine living without, because obviously block update detectors existed before, but having it in one block, having a cool dude to look at you while you do so, it makes a lot of things possible that otherwise wouldn't be. But the truth is, a lot of the rest of this update kind of all relies on the Woolen Mansion to some extent. A lot of the rest of this update just doesn't really have too much real use. I mean, here's another llama. How much do you care about it? Do you want to ride it? Oh, you can't actually ride them places. You can't control them. You can put carpets on them, and then they will go places at their own will anyway. It's the point is I think Minecraft made a update which was not great for everyone. It was great for a small subset. And even as someone in that small subset, I mean, I also really like the observer block. It should be mentioned, I've got a giant bamboo farm thing going on. You've probably all seen it in previous videos, but the thing is I really love, you know, one of the benefits of this update. I really love the observer blocks. I really love the shulker box. I even love the wooden mansion because I love rare siege systems, but most players do not agree with all of these observations. Most players feel like, yeah, this is a pretty forgettable update. Not as good as 1.12, which added all the color blocks. Not as good as 1.13, which changed the oceans and made brand new things possible. Not as good as 1.14, which again, everyone can confirm is a good update, it seems as though, right? And therefore, I think the most interesting question we can ask to work out, like, so which updates are going to be good and which updates can be forgettable in the future, is to ask what 1.13 and 1.14, and to a lesser extent 1.12, got right that 1.11, and indeed I would say 1.10 is just as bad, but it's harder to pick on. What did these updates get wrong that those updates did not? So yeah, let's take a look first of all at the good updates in this comparison, 1.13 and 1.14. The Update Aquatic and the Village and Pillage update, both of which have very clear and very effective themes, both of which were teased a bit before their release, both of them had a very clear objective that was kind of laid out by the developers before implementing it, you know, giving a little bit of time for the community to kind of add their input to it, which is true for all snapshots, but it was definitely most true in both these past updates. Water and its entirety of you know, how it was going to work was changed after how people didn't want their existing builds to break. That's a thing they made possible. The other key thing about these updates, I would say, is the theming really is on point. There are non-update aquatic features in 1.13, but the fact that they really changed everything about water made it quite impressive in that way. There are you know, village-related changes in 1.14, such as foxes, to give a good example, but there are lots of changes that have nothing to do with villages, or for the most part, but yet they send the very clear message that the update overhauled villages. There are new village things to do. If you want to know how to explore this update without having to look up a feature list, all you have to do is go to a village and you'll see how things have changed. There's experience bars that are public. There are new trades. There's new mechanics, new great benefits if you're willing to go and you know, get them. I think these last two updates make it very clear what's going on, what's new, and what you can really take advantage of, and I think it's something that has really benefited the game. So how do we compare that to 1.10 and 1.11? And I would say, you know, 1.10, the Frostburn update, what the heck does that even mean? I mean, we all know that it means, like, so there's magma blocks and there's also, you know, polar bears and strays, so that's kind of like frost and that's kind of like burn. But the truth is 1.10 is just a random collection of stuff like bone blocks. Okay, yeah, they're useful. Fossils are nice too. It's like red nether brick. I mean, kind of nice. There is, you know, strays and husks. I don't think anyone really cares about them too much. They're just weird skeletons and weird zombies. And there's polar bears, which you forgot existed until I mentioned them again, and you're like, oh yeah, polar bears. They're a mob that I don't actually care about or I'm going to use. So that's 1.10, definitely one of Minecraft's weakest recent updates. And then 1.11 has the same problem. It's called the Exploration Update. And you're like, yeah, exploration's been overhauled. And they're like, oh no, by overhaul we mean we added one new structure to the game. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go look for a wooden mansion in my world. And then they're like, oh yeah, well you won't actually find one because we made them so impossibly rare that even if you search in a straight line for literally hours, you're also finding one. There's still not really much above 50-50. So it's like, oh yeah, there's a thing that I can't go and explore for. Why is this called the Exploration Update again? Because, oh yeah, we added a new trade to villagers where they can make maps for the ocean monuments and these brand new wooden mansions. You're like, oh yeah, you know what I love? When I want to go explore and I have to not explore for a really long time at first just to find a map, and then that map also involves the hours of work that it would have taken anyway. I love that as a mechanic. Like, you see the point that this update doesn't match the theme. In fact, the updates both very much kind of go against their own theme, in the sense that Frostburn doesn't mean anything and doesn't stick with a player, and the sense that the Exploration Update doesn't really encourage you to explore. I could argue the shulker box thing encourages you to explore the end, but again, it's not really that clear in my opinion that that would be a thing that's expected from this update. I also think that shulker boxes got significantly better in 1.12, especially because of the color thing, right? And yeah, just kind of in general, this update doesn't really fit the theme of exploring, besides the fact that there is a structure you can explore for, and that there is a map map that will lead you to said structure, and that is the biggest disappointment. When you hear about a big update to one of your favorite games, one of the biggest games of all time, an update which takes 6 months and later on takes a year, you don't want to be like, oh yeah, I have no clue what's in here, I'm going to look up a changelog, because obviously if you watch this channel, then you're lucky enough to know what's going into an update before it even comes out. In some cases, we cover the snapshots every single week. I'm sure you've worked that one out, but you get to see what's happening in the update, you get to see what's happening in 1.15 before it's even been announced. That's what we've been covering on the channel so far, but not everyone is that way. Most players, in fact, are casual. You know, if you're watching a Minecraft video on the internet, you probably care more about the game than average, I would go as far as to guess, and that is why I think going forwards, every single update theme needs to make sure that it's something as nice and clear and obvious as World of Color. Look, don't you see that? Look at this image right here, the World of Color update. Doesn't this make you want to go in the update and see, oh, what's changed? They changed everything about the colors, how they even display, but also added a bunch of new colorful blocks, also added a brand new type of block altogether. In fact, they added 3 brand new types of block altogether. They also added a lot of colorful birds to the game. I mean, okay, take the parrots, for example. Look at parrots right now. Okay, they might be useless, almost as useless as polar bears, but first of all, they're cute as heck. Second of all, they're colorful as heck. Third of all, we've all seen the meme on Twitter, right? This is the video right here, by the way. Like, it's pretty beautiful, and then like... Anyway, you get the point, right? Super cute, super adorable, but also a super effective update. You take 1.13, it's got the same thing. I would say to some extent, arguably less, because aquatic is a bit vague, but you know, go to the oceans, you'll find some new things, and you will find some new things. There's even a brand new weapon alongside all of the brand new blocks. You know, take 1.14, you know, go to the villages, and you're gonna find brand new things. It's gonna be great, and I love those things for that reason. And I think that's actually a good point to kind of end this on. Like, you know, I'm happy after watching that parrot video. You should be happy after watching that parrot video, and if you're not, then I don't know, you clearly don't have a soul, and if you don't have a soul, then maybe you should get out of it. Maybe this isn't the right place for you. This is a place where we enjoy cute parrots dancing on the internet, and if you don't agree with that, then make sure you subscribe on the way out so you see more of my videos. Also, turn on notifications, because every YouTuber says this at the end of this video, and the reason they say it is because they want you to see more of their videos, and if you don't see more of my videos, then I'll slowly fade into irrelevancy, which in YouTuber terms is basically the same as dying. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope I don't die, and I hope all of you don't die. I mean, I guess early as well. After all, death comes to us all eventually. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, because I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.